The Karmann Ghia looked like a sports car. Underneath, it ran on beetle bones. Volkswagen knew this gap existed, and they sold it anyway. For decades, buyers paid full price for a shape, not a performance. Why would a company hide weak guts behind a stunning shell? The answer involves a secret deal, a desperate need for image, and a compromise nobody saw coming. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're tuning in from tonight. Now let's pull back the curtain on the prettiest mistake Volkswagen ever made, and why drivers kept buying it without asking questions. Without asking questions, that's exactly how Volkswagen wanted it. Back in the 1950s, Volkswagen had a problem. Their lineup was practical, sturdy, and almost painfully plain. The Beetle sold well, but it never made anyone's heart race. Executives wanted something else, desire, so they turned to Italy. Carrozzeria Ghia, a small design house in Turin, had a reputation for sculpting beauty out of steel. Volkswagen handed them a simple brief: make something gorgeous. Nobody mentioned the engine. Nobody asked for more power. The goal was never performance. The goal was image. This was a calculated act of disguise. Ghia's stylists draped a flowing, curved body over the same humble platform that powered the Beetle. Underneath all that elegance sat a small, air-cooled engine built for economy, not excitement. Few buyers realized how little had changed beneath the surface. One fact truly exposes the trick. The Karmann Ghia used the Beetle's floor pan almost untouched. Suspension, mostly stock. Engine, barely upgraded. Karmann, the coach builder who actually assembled the car, simply wrapped Ghia's design around Volkswagen's existing bones. Efficient, clever, and a little bit of misdirection all at once. Post-war Europe ran on tight budgets, and that's why this mattered so much. Building an entirely new sports car from scratch meant new engineering, new tooling, and massive cost. Volkswagen couldn't justify that risk. Instead, they found a shortcut. Take what already works, add a beautiful shell, and let buyers fill in the gap with imagination. For everyday drivers, this created a strange experience. They sat behind a wheel that looked ready to race. The dashboard felt special. The curves outside turned heads at every stoplight. Yet the moment they pressed the gas, reality hit hard. Acceleration stayed slow. Top speed stayed modest. Many owners later admitted the same disappointment. It never went as fast as it looked. Still, something strange happened. People didn't return the cars. They didn't demand refunds. Instead, they adjusted their expectations and kept driving. The styling alone justified the price for thousands of buyers across Germany, the UK, and the United States. This saved Volkswagen money, but it also created a clever marketing trick. Looks could outsell horsepower. Emotion mattered more than spec sheets. And customers, even smart ones, could fall for beauty over substance. Older drivers today still carry that memory. They remember loving how the car looked, while quietly wishing it could do more. Pride and frustration sat side by side in the same garage. Understanding human desire, that's what this compromise was really about, more than cutting corners. Volkswagen didn't sell speed, they sold a feeling. And feelings, it turns out, are far easier to manufacture than horsepower. But one detail about this compromise still surprises people decades later, and it explains everything that came next. That detail starts with a number most people never expect. The Karmann Ghia's engine produced barely more horsepower than many modern lawnmowers in its early years. Think about that for a second. A car praised for its looks, admired at car shows, photographed for magazine covers, and underneath it all sat an engine weaker than equipment used to cut grass. If you're enjoying uncovering these hidden truths about classic cars, hit subscribe now so you don't miss what comes next. Brochures never advertised this fact loudly. They focused on style, comfort, and craftsmanship. The smooth lines, the tailored interior, the European flair. Performance numbers stayed buried in fine print, if they appeared at all. This wasn't an accident. It was a strategy built on silence. Behind the scenes, engineers actually debated upgrading the engine. Some pushed for more power to match the car's sporty appearance. Others worried about cost, reliability, and straying from VW's proven formula. The conservative voices won. Volkswagen stuck with what already worked, even if it meant a mismatch between promise and performance. A strange identity emerged from this decision. The Ghia wasn't a sports car. It wasn't a family car either. It floated somewhere in between, a car built purely on feeling rather than function. Critics at the time noticed this gap immediately. Reviews praised the design while gently mocking the modest performance. Yet sales kept climbing anyway. Good text shaped everything here. Buyers weren't cross-shopping the Ghia against actual sports cars. They compared it to their neighbor's plain sedan, their co-worker's dull commuter car. Against that backdrop, the Ghia looked like a dream. Perception, not raw numbers, drove demand. Owning a Ghia carried social weight too, especially for drivers in the UK and Germany. It signaled taste. It signaled that you valued design over pure practicality. Neighbors noticed it parked outside. Friends asked questions about it at gatherings. The car became a status symbol, built entirely on appearance rather than ability. This boosted Volkswagen's image, and it also extended the car's life far beyond what anyone expected. Updates stayed minor for years. Engines grew slightly stronger over time, but never dramatically. Volkswagen understood something simple. Buyers weren't demanding more power. They were content with the illusion they'd already bought into. An entire generation of owners ended up chasing a feeling rather than a spec sheet. Many later admitted they knew the truth early on, yet didn't care. The drive to a coastal road, the way sunlight hit the curved hood, the way strangers stared at stoplights, these moments mattered more than acceleration numbers ever could. But this compromise didn't last forever without consequence. Eventually, something deeper began working against the Ghia, something far more dangerous than a weak engine. It crept in slowly, hidden where nobody thought to look, and it would end up shaping the car's entire legacy in ways no design team could have predicted. Hidden where nobody thought to look, that's exactly where the real threat lived. It wasn't the engine, it wasn't the styling, it was rust, and it spread through the Karmann Ghia in ways owners never saw coming until it was too late. Here's the hidden fact that changes everything. The Ghia's body sat on a steel platform with poor rust protection by today's standards. Moisture crept into seams, wheel wells, and floor pans. In wetter climates like the UK and parts of Germany, this became a slow death sentence. Many Ghias didn't fail mechanically. They simply dissolved from the inside out. Rust-proofing technology lagged far behind design ambition in that era. That's the real reason this happened. Factories focused on shape and assembly speed, not long-term corrosion resistance. Nobody fully understood how aggressively road salt and humidity would attack these panels over decades of daily use. For owners, this created a heartbreaking pattern. A car they'd cherished for its looks slowly betrayed them through hidden decay. Rust started in places drivers rarely checked, behind the fenders, inside the floor, along the rocker panels. By the time it showed on the surface, serious damage already existed underneath. Emotionally, this hit long-time owners hard. People who'd kept their Ghia spotless, who'd waxed it every weekend and treated it like a prized possession, watched it crumble anyway. Pride turned into frustration. Frustration turned into loss. Many simply couldn't afford the repair costs and let the cars go. Rust didn't just damage individual cars. It shrank the surviving population dramatically. Thousands of Ghias that once filled driveways across America, Britain, and Germany quietly disappeared, scrapped, abandoned, left to rot in fields and garages. Today, finding a clean, rust-free example feels like finding a rare artifact rather than a common classic. Here's where the story gets even more painful. Parts for proper rust repair were never mass-produced like they were for the Beetle. Karmann built these bodies with more complex curves, which meant fixing rust properly required real craftsmanship, not just patchwork. Many owners attempted cheap repairs that failed within a few years, accelerating the car's decline even further. For collectors today, this scarcity completely flipped the script. A car once seen as underpowered and overlooked now commands serious money, specifically because so few clean originals survived the rust epidemic. What started as a flaw became Decades later, the very reason values climbed so high, steel met moisture, and moisture always won in the end. This single weakness, more than weak horsepower, ended up defining the Karmann Ghia's fate. Beauty couldn't protect it, charm couldn't stop it. But understanding why Volkswagen never fixed this properly reveals something even more uncomfortable about how the company viewed this car all along. Volkswagen never fixed the rust because the Ghia was always a side project, not a priority. That choice still echoes today. Want to spot hidden rust before buying any classic? Check the rocker panels first, always. Comment Ghia if you drive one anyway, and subscribe for the next hidden story behind a classic you thought you already knew.